Yeah, I know. I thought my biceps were the same size as Larry Wheels too. What a joke. So I may have forgotten that the UK doesn't just get rainy, it also gets windy. So I think the gazebo needs a quick makeover. There we are. Good as new. Right, so apparently tonight it is going to be 40 miles per hour winds, which isn't very good for that gazebo, I'd imagine, but I have no idea how windy it is at the moment, so I'm going to ask trusty Siri. Hey Siri, how windy is it at the moment?
Wind speed is currently 16 miles per hour.
16 miles an hour? This is 16 miles an hour. So it's going to more than double the wind overnight. I mean, the sensible thing would just be to take it down tonight and then put it back up again tomorrow. Oh dear. Done that last night. So luckily, although it's pretty windy at the moment, the weather is actually pretty good today and there's no rain, so it means I can actually train without the gazebo, so I don't need to set it up again today, and then tomorrow I've got a rest day so I can go a few days without actually having to set it up again, and hopefully the wind does die down a little bit. But today I've got deadlifts going pretty heavy. It's my heavy deadlift day today. It's just having some creatine to prepare me for that. Although I heard recently that creatine can potentially make you go bald, which kind of explains a lot, but I don't know if that's actually true. But yeah, working up to 210 for my top set for 5, but we're ramping it up, so I'm going to be doing 190, 200, then 210, so quite a lot of volume on deadlifts. And then once I've done that, I'm going to talk about my goals, mainly post-lockdown, what I'm hoping to get when I'm back in the gym, but it'll be talking about sort of what I'm hoping to get during lockdown, which will actually prepare me for those goals that I hit post-lockdown. We're going to talk about goals, but yeah, like I say, I need to have my creatine, have a little bit of caffeine, get myself nicely fired up, and then we'll go deadlift. Oh dear, oh dear. So that training session was going incredibly well. Deadlifts felt really good. 210 moved really well as well, I felt. But it's literally the very last set of good mornings, and I wasn't even filming it because I was just thinking, get this done, and then the training session's done, where I felt a little bit of a ping in my hamstring, and it was on the different hamstring to what I injured it a few months back, which is quite frustrating. It's nothing too serious, it's just literally like a pull, but it has massively stiffened up now, so hopefully it doesn't set me back too much. I'm going to have a couple of days off training now. Luckily I have a rest day tomorrow anyway, but I think I'll push that to 2 days just so I can actually rest it and recover it. I was going to be going for a cycle tomorrow as well, but I'm not going to do that. I'm literally just going to rest it, but fingers crossed it's nothing too serious. Right, so I'm going to talk about the goals that I've kind of set myself during this lockdown, but it kind of depends on how long the lockdown goes on for, because it's quite uncertain how much longer we're going to be in this lockdown. So it could be a couple of weeks before the gym's open, or it could be 6 weeks, or it could be 12 weeks. So it's quite hard to say exactly how much I'm going to be able to progress in X amount of time, because we just don't know how long we're going to be in lockdown. But I have kind of written down some goals that I've got during this lockdown, so I can just make sure that I am making progress and I'm staying on track with my training. So at the moment, training is going quite well. I'm making the most of what I've got, but I'm hoping to get round about 200 kilos on the squat, or repping 200 kilos. So I've done previously, while in the home gym, 180 for 3 for a couple of sets of 3, and that felt ridiculously easy. So I'm not pushing the boat up too much with saying 200 kilos, but if I can squat or rep 200 kilos on the squat while in the home gym, then I think that's a sign that during this cut I am still making progress. So the next thing is bench. Bench is one that has suffered a little bit since I've been dropping weight and been training in the garden gym, especially because the equipment is just not great compared to being in a public gym or the gym that I train at. But I'm still hoping that I can pretty much maintain 140 kilo bench, a 3-plate bench. That's kind of what I want to be able to maintain. If I can stick with having 3 plates aside, then I'll be really happy with that. But it's hard to really tell where my bench is at the moment, because I've massively reduced the amount of intensity on my bench. So the volume's quite high, but the intensity is quite low. So once that starts ramping up again, then I'll get a better idea of where my bench is at. But I think 140 by the end of this lockdown. If I've still got a 140 bench, then again, that's a sign that I have been making progress on this cut. So finally, my nemesis, the deadlift. This has been the most inconsistent during this time of the lockdown. Obviously I did 210 today for 5, which was pretty good, and a rep calculator suggests that puts me in around 245 kilos, and I probably wouldn't argue with that. I'd say that's probably around about right. So if I can push that up to sort of 250 while still cutting, that would be an amazing goal to have by the end of the lockdown. So really, during this lockdown, if I can total between 590 to 600 kilos, I'd be really happy with that. Given the circumstances, the fact I'm cutting and everything like that. I mean, it is quite a big drop in strength, but I'm really trying not to think about that too much, because, you know, when you're cutting, inevitably you are going to lose a little bit of strength, and it's just not panicking and just, you know, committing to it. So yeah, around about 600 kilos, I reckon that's probably where I'll be by the end of lockdown if I'm continuing to make progress while I'm cutting. Post lockdown then, this kind of depends on obviously when the gym's open again and how long I give myself while back in the gym in familiar surroundings and acclimatizing to the new body weight, which will be 93 kilos. I think genuinely I can push myself to get around 620 kilos, 625, which would consist of around about 220 kilo squat, a 145 bench maybe, and around about 260 or a 6-plate deadlift. That would be like higher end again and would be absolutely ideal. And actually, if I get a 260 deadlift, that actually would technically be a PB relatively, because when I pulled 282.5 at 105, that was a 2.7 times body weight, whereas 260 at 93 kilos would be 2.8 times body weight. So if you want to, you know, look at progress and relative strength, that's sort of quite a good goal to have, I think. If I can get a 260 deadlift at 93 kilos, that is a sign that my relative strength has increased. So those are my goals really, my intra-lockdown goals and my post-lockdown goals. It is good to try and set yourself little goals to keep you focused and on track, but try not to obsess over them too much, because that's not always healthy as well. But yeah, if I can sort of get around about 600 kilo total by the end of lockdown, I'd be pretty happy with that. And like I say, 625 when I'm back in the gym and training a bit more regularly on proper equipment, that sort of thing, I'd be very happy with that as well. So yeah, I suppose the final thing to say is if you guys have any goals or things that you want to achieve during this lockdown, write them down in the comments down below. Have you got anything that you want to try and achieve? It doesn't necessarily have to be training related or powerlifting related. If you've got any goals that you're trying to set or do during this lockdown, then yeah, write them down below, and then we can sort of keep each other accountable, that sort of thing. But yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please leave it a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one, as long as this hamstring is feeling a little bit better, because at the moment it is feeling a bit ropey. But fingers crossed that'll be fine, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. So take care, peace.